So what do I want from a set of pedals if I'm upgrading? I mean, of course they need to be bulletproof. That's just a basic. I'm going to need them to have high-end electronics and built on a robust load cell. That's a must for sure. And tunability or adjustability. Oh yes, I need to dial these pedals exactly the way I want them to move and feel. But what about even more exotic options like carbon fiber or hydraulics? There are so many choices. And what about money? What is my budget? To achieve all of that could cost a pretty penny. And then there are so many choices. Well, one of those options in the world of medium to high-end pedal ranges would be the Simgrade VX Pro pedals that we have here today. And I'll tell you, they come in 2 or 3 pedal varieties, so you can get them as just a gas and brake, or you can get them with or without the clutch, or even add that on later. And this is a really cool set of pedals, and they are all made of metal, and you can see just looking at them that they are kind of like engineering marvels in their design. So not only do the VX Pro pedals feature a 200 kilogram Maven, is it Maven or Mavin? But that is a brand name, that is like a top of the line load cell. It's a 200 kilogram load cell on the brake. Not only does it have that, but it also uses a load cell on both the gas and the clutch pedal, 100 kilogram version on both of those pedals. So they are a very unique design, and I've never tested a configuration that used a load cell on both the gas and clutch. So I'm very, very interested to see how that's going to work out under my feet. And when you see these pedals in action, you can see what I'm talking about when it comes to engineering marvels. As you press on the gas pedal, it pivots on sealed stainless steel bearings and then operates a hinging mechanism to slide more bearings along rails. As this happens, it applies more pressure onto that 100 kilogram load cell, which is measuring the pressure more than actual distance. With the bearings at the pivots and even the pressure being applied by more bearings, it is one of the smoothest turning gas pedals that I've ever touched. Its movement looks as much like an artistic piece of machinery as it does a gas pedal. The brake follows a very similar overall design, but its hinge pieces are even more extreme, but with the same action, rolling those bearings to apply pressure on that 200 kilogram load cell. While we're here close up, you can see there are 4 different positions for the shock mount that easily adjust the pedals. We're going to come back to that later. The clutch follows the same design, with the biggest difference being a slight ramp change where the bearings run for the clutch pedal fall off point, all the while increasing pressure from those bearings to once again that 100 kilogram load cell. The VX Pro clutch comes with 2 different fall off plates to choose from. Okay, by now you're probably wondering, that's all great, but how much? And the great thing about the VX Pro pedals is that these pedals were specifically designed to give you all of the high-end features that they come with at a medium price point. And they did a really good job of that. So Simgrade, who actually make 2 other pedal sets, they make the Terra and the R7 models, both of which are more expensive. And they took features from both of those pedals, things they've learned from both of those pedals, and then designed these to be more budget friendly, but again, give you a very high performance pedal set for the money. So for those who are just looking for a 2 pedal set and don't need the base plate, you're looking at $435, which is €399 for just the gas and brake no heel plate. So for those who don't need a heel plate and their rigs are just going to accept a pedal set, you just drill them down, or if they're profile, you just bolt it down. That is downright cheap for a 2 pedal set with that many features. Now for those needing the clutch, wanting the full 3 pedal set, you're looking at $595, which is €547, which is still an extremely low price when you consider the amount of features and what you're getting for the money for a 3 pedal set. Now for those who want to just get things going with a 2 pedal set, it's cool. You can add the clutch later. They charge $175, or €160 for that add-on on its own, so you can just add it later, which is cool. Kind of a modular approach to selling the pedals, which definitely makes them a little more approachable. So if you've never heard of Simgrade, they're actually a Finnish reseller. They import and resell a bunch of different gear from the likes of like Simicube, Husingveld, Track Racer, and then they make a variety of products of their own. They make a sim rig, and like I said, the 2 other pedal sets as well, and they've been doing this for many, many years, so they're not new to the industry, and like I said, this is their 3rd go-around when it comes to pedal sets. The VX Pro pedals are what I would call a ladder construction, for lack of better wording. It's a design that I think Husingveld has made very common or famous in the sim racing world, but it's really a building technique that is very common throughout everything in the world, from framing houses to building a ladder. But it consists of your side plates that are then connected together by inserts with bolts running between them, holding it all together. And that's how you make up both the pedal arm and the pedal base. And it's a very efficient design. It's very strong and it's very lightweight for the amount of strength. And in the case of all 3 pedals, at some point you have a pickup point for the mechanism that will squeeze upon the spring. So you have the top connector on the pedal arm for the spring, and then the lower one that goes on those super duper fancy tracks that we were talking about, where the bearings run along it or lock into position. It's a really, really cool design. The arms also have ball bearings installed where the arm pivots on the base, as well as any pivoting spots on the pedals. That is common also for all 3. It is at the middle of each pedal that we see the biggest differences. Each pedal has a secondary arm that pivots on, ball bearings. These arms create the pressure upon the load cell, and therefore slightly different shapes to compensate for the spring and the desired pressure upon the load cell. Each pedal then has its own spring configuration that goes between the pedal arm and those pressure arms. We will come back to their adjustability and other adjustments later. Every part of what we've seen here is made of metal and is extremely sturdy. The overall look is pretty cool and again shows some engineering mastery. The overall shape of each pedal is remarkably small, with most of the movement going diagonally downward versus the straight back like many other pedal sets. In fact, front to back, these measure in at only about 4 inches and 2¼ inches left to right. Very small. Now it's time to mount the VX Pro pedals to my rig, which is really easy, and basically just because they have a handful of slots and holes on the bottom of each pedal, and they happen to line up not only with my R seat here, but also on the Next Level racing rig that I tested. So it's very easy, and it comes with all the hardware you need, including they even come with the little nuts that go in, like the 80/20 profile tubing. So you got that if you want to go directly to like a P1 or any kind of profile chassis, that'll go directly. But in my case, I'm just going to bolt them right to my rig. And again, I got lucky. The holes lined up with holes on my R seat. So it was just a matter of getting the pedals in position and getting them good and bolted down. Which set of holes was it going to be though? There's so many holes on this particular one. I think it was going to be this one right here. I believe. And then once you have all 3 pedals mounted, you just have to plug each pedal into the corresponding slot on the controller board. So there's a G for gas, or actually it's a T for throttle, a B for brake, and then it's a C for clutch. And then we'll just end up using some double stick tape and attaching it right there. And then we just have to plug this into the computer, and we're up and running. Now this worked out great because the distance and the spacing, and there's plenty of room for my heels here on the R seat and also on the Next Level that I tested. But if you did need a heel plate, they do have one available for $80, and then that would just be as simple as attaching the heel plate itself to the rig instead of each pedal independently, but this should work out pretty well. Out of the box, the VX Pro pedals feel very high-end. There are a few things that just give it that immediate feel. The minute you put your feet on them, they are strong, they're robust, and when I press on the pedals, there's no side-to-side movement whatsoever. They are absolutely one-directional, just that forward intended direction of the throttle, gas, and brake pedal. The other thing that I immediately noticed is these are high-sprung pedals, so if you're running on potentiometers or on any medium-level pedal set, these are going to feel pretty heavy-duty right out of the box without any adjustment. And that takes me to the smoothness. So one of the ways you achieve zero wiggle left and right and totally perfectly butter smooth directional movement is with all of those bearings. All those stainless steel ball bearings make these pedals move with absolutely no friction. Focusing in on the throttle pedal, I found the throw to be medium long, which is plenty. I also like the end stop. That feeling when the throttle pedal hits its end, it's a perfect combination of a hard stop, but it doesn't have that metal on metal click that some pedals have. This is accomplished with these heavy-duty caps that are bolted on and hit the end stop plates. It is very clever and has a very good feel. The brake pedal, again, especially for those coming from lesser pedals, is very strong, and I would say overall medium travel also. The pressure with the stock spring is very stiff combination and is pressing on that 200 kilogram load cell. This results in a very race car type feel. There is a hint of dual or even triple stage braking going on here. There's the spring, and then there's those second stage spacers inside, and then that all presses on the load cell itself. There's enough distance to work with for good modulation and plenty of pressure to balance with or balance on to get it just right. This makes for great trail braking control. Despite the heavy load with that load cell and strong spring, the pedal maintained all of its rigidity. Now the clutch pedal works kind of like the gas pedal does, with the exception of a very quick fall off ramp on that bearing track and no end stop. The action is very quick and there's less fall off feel or cam action to this pedal than most clutches that I've experienced. It was snappy and it was quick and it got the job done, but it was the least impressive of the three pedals admittedly, which is fine by me as far as clutches go. While I was using the clutch, I did my best version of heel and toe shifting, and because I was able to put these pedals at any spacing that I wanted, that worked out perfectly. Now the pedal faces are kind of basic. Maybe here's an area where Simgrade was able to save a little bit of money. Now they are effective and they got the job done. They're strong and they certainly are large enough, and their shape worked well with my shoes and feet even to accomplish confident manual shifting. But they are kind of generic and not as fancy as some other higher performance pedal sets. Overall, the VX Pro pedals worked really well. I mean, I was pretty blown away. Just plug and play, just bolted them on my rig and got down to driving, and everything about their performance was top notch. It was going to be very easy to get used to these pedals as is and just get down to some really good driving with them. Now, they have so many adjustments. The great thing about these pedals is the ability to really dial them into exactly what you want out of the pedals. So we're going to get to work to see how much more we can get out of this pretty good set of pedals as is. One of the best features about the VX Pro pedals is the amount of adjustability that they have, and you can completely dial them in a lot of ways to exactly how you want them to feel. We're going to get to that in just a second. But another great feature about them is that they are completely maintenance free. They are completely dust invincible. So these load cells, they have no moving parts. So on the throttle and clutch in particular, you have no potentiometer, you have no Hall effect sensor, you have no measuring device that moves and has moving parts to fail or get dirty and no longer work that well. You don't have to do anything. Even dog hair isn't going to mess with these. These load cells are super heavy duty. You cannot break them with the leverage of the pedals, and therefore you just don't even have to think about it. And that's kind of rare. I've had pedals where I have to always be spraying some air on them or doing something to remove dirt because they started acting up once they started getting dirty. So that's really great. Now when it comes to the adjustments, there are a ton of adjustments that you can do, and a lot of them you can do without tools. Some of them you need tools, others you don't, depending on what adjustments you're making. But all three pedal faces, you can move them up and down a fair amount, and it's fairly easy to do. You just have to loosen up some bolts and they move. It's covered well in the instructions. I found these heights to be perfect for me me, so I didn't have to make any adjustments there, but it would be that easy. You can also change the preload. So if I tighten these finger nuts, it's going to put a little more tension on this spring before we even start moving the pedal, and that's going to add a little bit more pressure to the whole thing, or I can reduce a little bit as well. And that's a really easy adjustment, just to make fine adjustments. If you want to make larger adjustments, it's pretty easy as well, and each pedal's a little different, but basically you loosen these finger nuts enough to get some free play in this system, and then we can move this bearing assembly into any of these 4 channels. The closer I put it to the pedal, the less pressure it's going to take to activate the pressure. The further up I move it, the more pressure it's going to take, the harder the pedal is going to feel. And then once you have it in the position that you want, you just adjust the preload, and you're all set. It is that easy to do. Same thing goes with the throttle pedal, but you have 3 different positions to choose from, and then on the clutch pedal you have 2 different positions to choose from. I will say that each position drastically changes the feeling of the pedal, and it's as simple as that. No tools. Very easy, very fast, and very effective. Another adjustment that carries over to all 3 pedals, the pedals are set back at 5 degrees in their natural position. You can loosen up this bolt right here, another one on this side, and put it back to a second set position, which would be at 8 degrees. So that would give you 3 more degrees of tilt away from the driver. Again, very easy, 2 simple bolts, and it moves. Now on the brake pedal, you can actually make some adjustments unique to the brake pedal. So within the spring, there are some spacers, and you can actually change those spacers out, and what that does is that's like your second stage or your first stage. So you have the spring and then the inserts, both affecting the pressure before we even start putting pressure down on that load cell. You just have to remove this entire stack, put those spacers in, change out the combination, and it might make the pedal stiffer and limit the travel distance as well. And then the clutch pedal has its own adjustments as well. So you can change out these clutch ramp, and it's a little bit less of a hill on that ramp. So you're going to find the pedal goes a little bit quicker, a little bit more linearity, won't have that little dip in it there that lets it accelerate past that push point is the way it feels. You can also change the travel of the pedal by adjusting the pivot point, and that will give it a little bit more throw and a little bit less throw. Now after making all of those adjustments, I still felt like when doing some heel-toe driving that I wanted just a little bit more travel out of some of the pedals to kind of facilitate that movement easier. So I talked to Timo of Simgrade, and he told me there are actually plastic covers on the front that you can remove, and it will actually extend the throw length, and it might cause you to adjust the angle of the pedals a little bit because it's going to extend things. But with that change, I was able to get these completely perfectly dialed in for heel-toe driving, and that made me very happy. It's just one of the great features. So many adjustments. You can get each pedal independently dialed in the way you want, and with that added throw, it even gave a little more life to the clutch, so it made that fall off point even more noticeable or dramatic, which really upped my feelings about the clutch overall. So when I think about all that tunability or adjustability, my ability to get each pedal to feel exactly how I wanted each pedal independently to feel, those are the kind of features that I usually expect from a much higher end set of pedals than the VX Pro. So they're pretty impressive there. But now that we've made these changes, it's time to recalibrate the pedals, and that's a great time to talk about software. Whether you're just getting started or you've made some changes to the pedals, you're always going to want to recalibrate them to make sure you're getting the most out of them. Plus, there are a few settings to tailor the pedals to exactly what you need. So I have made some changes, and it starts with the software here, which is very easy to use. There's not a lot to do, starting with like calibration. So right now you can see it's not really working that well because of the changes we've made, the red being the raw, the green being the line going to the computer. So I just want to hit the calibrate button and then press the clutch all the way in and hit stop and save. And then repeat that for all 3 pedals. And then make sure you hit right config to device, and it will reset the readings to the pedals. And you can see we're just getting a teeny tiny bit of a blip. So you can even go ahead and add in a little bit of dead zone, for example, if you want to make sure there's just nothing showing at all. Or I actually like to press my foot on the brake while driving. So I like to rest my foot on the brake while I'm driving. And so now you can see we are getting the full throw out of all 3 pedals and no hint of it. Even when I put my foot on the brake pedal a little bit, you can see I can drive like that comfortably, and it's not going to press until I get to about there where I had set it. And then, of course, you're probably going to want to recalibrate in the game as well. Another thing you can do is you can change the curves. So right now we're on a very linear set, but if you did want to change things to be a little bit slower in how they acted to the game, you can change the profiles as well. But all in all, it's very basic, it's very easy to use, and the main thing is any changes you do to the pedals, you're definitely going to want to recalibrate them. And now that we've made some adjustments, we've recalibrated, got everything perfect, we can do our final thoughts on driving with these VX Pro pedals. After making a ton of adjustments, some minor, some a little more major, and really making every improvement to these pedals to get each pedal independently to feel the way I wanted, I was blown away by the performance of this pedal set. Coming in at a very reasonable price and offering the performance of pedals that can easily be double, even triple the price of these pedals. Now, they might not look as spectacular as some of those higher end pedals. Their pedal faces are a little ordinary, just kind of thin, stamped metal with a little curvature to them. But they perform very well, and overall it's the theme of the VX Pro pedals. Bang for buck, giving you exactly what you need as a driver. You want the brake to be stiffer? No problem. Stiffen it up, and you can do it with no tools, or you can get the Pro kit and really stiffen up that thing. You want that pedal to be softer on the throttle? No problem. Just quickly make a quick adjustment there, and you're up and running. They performed well, and they feel like they'll last a long time. I tried the pedals in a bunch of different configurations. You could be talking about all 3 pedals doing heel-toe driving. We could be talking about 2 pedals, just the gas and brake and more of a formula setup. And I even did the heel tilting way. And each and every time I was able to make the adjustments to make that method work well under my feet. The VX Pro pedals come with so many features and so many adjustments that you'd think we would be all done talking about them. But they did build in that modular thinking from the very beginning, so you can buy just the gas and brake to save a little bit of money, or if you don't even need a clutch, why pay for it? And on top of that, they have a few hop-ups or add-ons for them as well, starting with the VX Pro kit. So the Pro kit is even stronger springs than what it comes with. It's 2 different stronger springs and side supports that make the ramp angles even more aggressive or more firm. So if it wasn't strong enough with all your adjustments, you can even upgrade that. Now, my recommendation, I was able to get this quite stiff, and I would definitely just start off with a stock spring, and then if that wasn't enough, for only $44 or €40, you can take care of that. So that's really nice and not even a very expensive upgrade. On top of that, they have the throttle side support, which is also not very expensive. It's only $23 US or €25. And you know, I've had scenarios, it doesn't happen all the time. Certain rigs with certain geometry, certain pedal sets, when I'm heel toe, where I'll go to put my gas on and it just slides right off. That action from going from the brake to the gas, and I miss it and it slides off to the outside. That's exactly what this side support prevents from happening. And again, just like the VX Pro upgrade, I would test them out, find out if that's an issue. If it is, it's as simple as that little fix. And if it isn't, you're not going to need that upgrade. And then lastly, and perhaps the most unique or interesting, are the heel supports. Now this was something that I tripped out and I couldn't wait to test. And at the same time, I was a little apprehensive about how it would work out. These bolt on to the pedal. And when that happens, they actually move. They articulate with it, mostly intended for the gas, and it works on the brake as well. And it means that your heel is locked with the pedal, which at first was really weird. I'm not even going to act like it was awesome. When I first sat down, it was really strange, caught me off guard even, and took some getting used to. But once I did, I immediately started to notice that I had a lot less pressure on my ankle and even on my calf or shin, depending on your driving position. And it really gave me that locked in feeling to the gas pedal, which I thought was kind of cool. Now, it made heel-toe driving impossible. So I went ahead and put the one on the brake as well, just to see, and I got rid of the clutch from my setup and went with that 2-foot locked up setup. And I have to tell you, again, it would take some getting used to, and it would probably be hard to transition to conventional pedals after using that for too long. But it was a very unique position, and I think if you sim race and you have discomfort in your heels or in your calf or shin area, that this might be something worth considering for sure. Those heel plates go for $70 or $64 per pedal. Well, I know this review is getting a little bit on the long side, and that's mainly because the Simgrade VX Pro pedals have so many features, so many adjustments, so many things to talk about in just a pedal set review. But in case you missed anything, I want to make sure it's all perfectly clear, so we're going to go ahead and break it down with the good, the not so good, and the bottom line, starting off with the good, and that being a great price. All metal construction, highly adjustable, ball bearing pivot points, load cell on brake, gas, and clutch, super low profile, small footprint, bulletproof, dust proof, maintenance free, super smooth action, modular design. And now on to the not so good, and I have spent the last few weeks racking my brain trying to come up with something that I don't like about the Simgrade pedals. I have tried so hard to think of something they could have done better on these pedals, and I'm really having a hard time finding anything. The only thing I could really hit them for are the semi-inexpensive or just sort of generic pedal faces when comparing them to much higher end pedals. And now on to the bottom line. There are a couple of things that I didn't put on the good or not so good list because I felt like they kind of hit both sides. So for example, these pedals are so highly accurate, they are so fast reading that I found when I rested my foot on the brake pedal that I would actually see that pressure. That's how sensitive these pedals are. Now some people would say that's a very good thing because with that I know they're acting very quickly and they're being highly accurate. And on the other hand, for those who like to rest their foot on the brake, they might be a little too sensitive. However, with the software, I was able to dial in some dead zone and completely protected myself from that. So while that would have been something that maybe potentially I would have said was a not so good, in the end I was able to get that adjusted to the point that it wasn't a problem. So I really have almost nothing negative to say about these pedals. Now, I have called them a great price point. I've mentioned many a time that I feel they're actually great bang for buck pedals, maybe even use the word inexpensive, and relatively, I do think they're inexpensive. When I compare the features, when I compare the adjustability, when I compare the performance, these can hold themselves against some much, much higher priced pedal sets. And therefore, I feel that they are a great price for what you get. Now, that doesn't mean that they're inexpensive. That doesn't mean that if you're sitting there on a $300 wheel and pedal set that these seem affordable to that person there. But when comparing them to other pedals of like performance, of like price, these are spectacular pedals. And I think another part of the affordability for me is that modular design. And I really like that they made it so that I can just buy the gas and the brake on their own. If I don't even need a clutch, I don't have to pay for it. Or if I'm short on money, I can get going on a great set of pedals. And then when I need it or when I have the money, I can add that clutch later. And even the accessories, the Pro kit with the stiffer springs or the side support, those are things like the heel pivot point. Those are all things that you can add later if you really need them. So I think that helps on the affordability of that modular design. So all in all, very impressed with the pedals. I want to thank Simgrade for sending these VX Pro pedals over here for review. It was a pleasure to use them. It was great bringing them to you, showing you all their features. And it's even hard for me to imagine how much more you get out of the R7 or Terra models. Maybe someday we'll be lucky enough to get our feet on those as well. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can find out when our next video comes out. Be sure to give this one a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching. This is the Simpit. I'm Sean Cole, and I'll see you on the track.